We really love being connected to you. We love hearing your aha moments, your questions, your comments, your crazy, wild, magical stories, and the goals and dreams that you've manifested. It is always so fun to hear from you guys, and that's why we're diving into another Q&A episode. We recently did one in the past that ended up being a 2-part series because so many questions came in that we wanted to cover. So in this episode, we're going to be covering some fun new questions like what is the most challenging part of running our business together, our trip to Bali and what our experience was, how to navigate the new boundaries you want to set with family when you're the one who's changed, how to find your purpose when you feel like you're constantly searching or even changing what you're interested in. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. Okay, so Chris is always telling me he just wishes that everyone would just ask him questions. Just ask me whatever your question is and I've got the answer for you. Chris is like a walking encyclopedia. It's not even funny. We even have an insider joke within our friend group that we call Chris Notes because Chris reads at least a book a week and he's always, as an Aquarius, he is always gathering knowledge and data. And he has notes upon notes upon notes upon notes upon notes. And so we are always asking him, hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you solve that? Hey, computer, this problem, help me out. He freaking knows a lot about a lot, which is really awesome. We won't get into his private school background and all the ancient lives you've probably lived, but most importantly, I wanted to share that because Chris recently said to me, hey, let's do another Q&A episode. And that's what led us to doing this one.
I absolutely love doing Q&A. And, it's funny because for forever, people would always come over if they came to our house or if we went over to their house, everyone ended up having a notebook. It just became something that was a common theme. And these aren't people that know each other. I can remember the first person that walked in, and I'm like, why do you have a backpack? And what are you doing with that spiral notebook? And they said, I decided from now on, whenever I come over here, I'm just going to bring a notebook. That way I can just write stuff down that you're going to say. You're going to tell me something I should probably buy. You're going to give me advice on something I should probably eat or something I should start doing. And so it just became that kind of a thing. And people started doing that. And I love it. It's one of the things that I enjoy the most. And it was I think my mom who really pointed out to me one time. She's like, what's the use of all this knowledge that you keep, reading and learning about if you're not sharing it with anybody? And the best way for me to share it with people is for people to ask questions because I don't always exactly know what is on the tip of someone's mind or what problem they're exactly facing because we all live in a little bit of our own world. And when people, I'm like, oh man, yes, I've done that research. And so finally it's like I can pay it back because the research that I've gathered is from other people. It's their experiments, what they've tried, what's worked or failed for them. And so I know so much about that. And so when people come and ask me about things, I'm like, oh yes, I can share this with you. It's funny because if you're not a reader, it's definitely something you should hop on. You should make the time, and you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, you can be a 10 pages a day kind of person. You can be a 10 minutes a day kind of person. It doesn't really matter. One thing that I used to do all the time because I got to where I just had too many books, especially I'd be on one and I'd open another and then open another and I realized, oh my gosh, it's too much right now. I started using audiobooks. So it's a really easy way to kind of cheat at the method if you're one of those people who your eyes get tired or you find yourself only reading before bed and dozing off and you want to get something going. I love actually listening to audiobooks while I'm in the gym. It's one of the easiest things. I just put on a light audio book and work out. And I get so much more information that way. Or listen to a podcast. It's just another excellent way to do that. Or do it while you're on walks. It's so important to do this because it's not just about improving yourself. That's only fun for really a certain period of time. And when you need it really bad. And that's great to do. But once you get past the part where you're only doing self-improvement kind of work, the next thing to do is to start reading for how can I help other people. So when Britt gets interested in something, I read the books about it. When someone else comes up, maybe a client that I have, or they're in an industry that I don't really know about. Let's say a new client comes to me and says like, hey, I'm doing this in this industry and I have no clue what they're talking about. I'll go read all the books. I don't just ask them questions. I want to go research so that I can have better conversations with them. Reading is about having better conversations with people. If you're an introvert and you're like, well, I really don't know what to say, ask the person what they're interested in and have backups so that you can talk about cool stuff with them. When people are passionate about things, they open up to you and you feel so much more connected with them. This is a conversation about conversations. And the more that you can dig yourself deep into this, the better you'll feel when you're around other people.
That was the number one question I started asking in the salon to all my clients that would come in, especially new ones, all, of course, old ones, but every new client, I made it a purpose. Like it was my mission to ask, like, what are you passionate about? And that got me to realize that a lot of women didn't know. 99% of the women said, I don't know. I don't know. And that blew my mind because I've always only followed my passion. Otherwise, I'm not lit up enough to stay motivated or consistent doing it, And so that led me to create all the programs and the online offerings that I have now and coaching women. So I'm grateful for that one thing is, asking people, what are you passionate about? It lights them up, it connects you, and you learn a lot, which is really cool because if they're passionate about it, they're most likely an expert or at least have some knowledge to share.
Yeah. And a lot of times what you'll find is that people have passion themes. Like they may be interested in some sort of sports, or they may be interested in some sort of fitness or some sort of spiritual thing. And when you ask them, what are you passionate about? They may not immediately know. It may not automatically just dawn on them. And then start asking them like, well, what do you do on Sunday when you don't have anything else to do? Or what do you do when you're just like, no one's around, you're at home by yourself? Like what's the thing that you get into that excites you? Or what do you hang out with your friends and do? It's like those kind of questions sometimes will pull that answer out of them. And then you're like, ooh, okay, tell me more about that. I'm so interested in hearing about it because you're interested.
Oh, do you remember 2013, our first little get-together gathering? It was Q&A with the Carmichaels.
Yes, that's how a lot of this started.
I mean, that was like Elevated Life beta version.
Yeah, we got all of our friends and family together and just we sat around in a group and we asked questions to each other. And it was phenomenal because what you can see a lot of times, most people don't have their direct questions answered. They go looking for things and it's a lot of times hit or miss. And so when you're in that group like that and people are like, I have this concern right now in my life. This is my pressing problem. This is my issue. For one, it gives you great business ideas. But two, you can really start to see like where other people are, because those are the kind of questions that most people aren't asking. They're, how's your day going? Which most people don't really care. They just say that. So you go, oh, it's great. And then just keep on walking. Or they talk about the weather, or it's kind of like menial stuff. That's okay. But when we go, you have to go cut deeper. And so you really start to discover, like, what is that other person who I'm sitting here looking at? Like, what are they going through? What are they dealing with? And is there anything that I can do to help them?
You know how we always like to challenge our elevators in the club and do like a 21-day challenge? I think I came up with a new one.
What you got?
I think you should, for 21 days, you should challenge yourself to ask every stranger, I was thinking like elevator vibes, like when you're in the elevator, that like weird, awkward silence and like I always want to break that silence. And I think that perfect question right there, hey, what are you passionate about? I mean, you will just make people be like, what in the F? Where did that come from? And I just think that would be such an amazing way to just bust through those walls to create connection and conversation.
Well, there you go. There's your number one tip for the day. If you find yourself with someone that you do not know, or even people you do know, ask them, what are you passionate about? And see what happens. See where that conversation ends up leading. It's phenomenal.
I love that. So that's our question to you. And now we'll answer your questions to us. And we're going to start with Brittany, which has a great name, by the way. She just spells it wrong. It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, the first question that she asks is, what is the most challenging part of running a business together?
I think the most challenging part, there's a couple of them, so maybe it's not just one thing. The biggest challenge in running a business is being able to have work time and then alone time, because it's very easy to feel like you're working nonstop. Because if you work together, guess what you're doing when you're off? You're talking about work. you're coming with a new thing. You get an email like, hey, what do you think about this? And so a lot of times you can feel like, hey, do I work 24 hours a day? So you have to really start to set boundaries around that. That's something for us that we have to continuously do. I mean, and it's because
especially with no kids.
Especially with no kids, because it's so easy for us to get locked down into work mode and to, like, 6 months go down the road and be like, did we even take a breather? Like, did we take a break at all? Like, what is going on? For us, we have to take vacations where there's like scheduled time off constantly. And it's not really a vacation to go out and enjoy ourselves. It's a vacation and kind of get away from everything and just not think about any of it for a while and just kind of be alone and out there. Most of the time we go out into nature where it's quiet, there's not a lot of people, and just get back to the roots and start to feel good back in ourselves. And we always come back renewed and literally so much better.
Yeah, I agree. I think finding that balance is always changing, especially like the season of our life and what we're interested in. I was, my first thought was the most challenging is that I just want to fuck around with you. Like, I don't want to do any work at all, honestly. Like, I mean, I know I'm the like one that works probably more than you do as far as like always tinkering with stuff, always coming up with new ideas. And like, you're just like, hey, read a book and relax, girl. And so I do get that. That seems ironic, but I feel like I just want to play and hang out and take a walk and take a nap and, make some lunch. And I feel like that is the biggest challenge in working together, is that you're accessible to me 24 hours a day and I just want to hang out and I want to play. So I think that's the most challenging. I mean, it's frustrating when you don't check your Asana, but
oh my God.
Aside from that, I feel like I just want to hang out.
Yeah. It's being in business.
You see, he didn't disagree, y'all.
Being in business and being in a relationship both things are already challenging. Both things are already challenging. So my biggest suggestion, if you even are considering doing that, is that you have a fantastic foundation to stand on first. And that's something that's big with us. Like we have not fought, and I can't remember. It's been years and years since we've had a fight. There's been, especially in the last couple of years, a lot of times where that could have easily happened just because, life is stressful in a lot of points.
Like last Thursday.
Oh my gosh. It's true. It's true. But, you eventually you start to figure out like you're on the other person's team and that you want to support them. And so when they have the off days, you don't take it personally. That's the big thing with relationships, is to not always take the mood the other person's in, especially if you spend a lot of time with them and you're in business with them personally, because people have off days. And that's just no matter how awesome the person is, they're going to have days where it's just tough. They're going to show up and hopefully do the minimum. And they're on the exact same token, they're going to have days where they're just doing awesome. And you're going to have those off days too. And so you have to give them kind of the space to allow them to have that and not take it home with you either. Because a lot of times you can take business successes and failures home, and that ends up carrying over into everything, your intimate life, how you see each other. And so you have to kind of separate the people into kind of two categories. This is kind of our business life together, even though I still love and respect you. And this is kind of our like non-business life together, and be able to do that so you can still have personal, intimate conversations, and then you can still talk about like money and marketing and serving people and stuff like that.
It's true. I always preface like, okay, I'm talking to you as like can you be my coach right now, or like, can you be my this right now, or I'm like trying to always let you know sometimes I need extra help, or like this is the frame that I'm coming from, so that it's like this is business, or so. And
that's helpful. That doing that sets the tone. I think that a lot of times in any kind of relationship or any kind of engagement, you're really wanting to set the expectation from the beginning. It's one of the most helpful things to do. And so when you ask somebody from the beginning, before you even go into it, if you tell them, hey, I need this right now, or hey, I'm asking you to do this thing, and then there it is.
Or like, hey, I'm extra sensitive right now. When you reply, can you do it from a place of love and peace?
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm always normally more hardcore than everybody in the room.
Oh my gosh.
About everything.
I'll have to say, like, I need not the Chris Carmichael answer, but like, if you were normal, like, what would the normal person say?
Welcome to life. Man.
Oh my God, I love us. Okay, so the other question that Brittany asks is, what is the most rewarding part of running a business together?
That's easy. It's being able to spend more time together. I think that so many couples live multiple lives, and they live lives away from each other. I have a person who, whenever I was going to school, there were a lot of guys that I went to school with whose one of their family members was the big breadwinner, and they were gone, I would say 80 to 90% of the time. Like they weren't at home. So that's one partner who's home all the time and one partner who's completely away all the time. And so there's always a dynamic mishap when that happens, because someone's going to feel lonely. Like someone's not going to feel fulfilled. Like it's really hard to make that work. A lot of people do, but it's difficult. And so I think for me, being able to spend as much time, Britt's the person I want to spend time with. Like that's why I entered into this whole thing, is because I really enjoy being around her. We ping and pong really well together, you know, and the strengths that I have go well with what she's got going on, and where my weaknesses are, she's able to really step up and like move into that role. And so it helps a ton. And so being able to spend as much time as we do together is my favorite part, most rewarding. By far. Am
I the ping or the pong?
No, you can be both if you want.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the most rewarding part, I mean, I guess is exactly like the most difficult part, is that I get to hang out with you. I get to be with you. I get to spend all my time with you, which is like, you're the dude I've like wanted to be with my whole, like, even before you came into my life, I dreamed of being with someone like you, and to have this relationship that is so supportive and so loving, and I can be so honest and open and vulnerable and raw and tell you all the things that I really think. Like, I feel like that's why we're creating what we are and making a difference and being able to move forward so quickly, is because we're not hiding or pretending or overthinking or second guessing or anything like that. It's just like, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we want, here's where we want to go forward. And that, I think that just helps us to be able to move the needle forward in both our personal life and our business.
Yeah, our situation is, I mean, I guess is unique, but it's because we have definitely decided that we want to live fantastic lives. I mean, it's just like a decision that we both made together. It was well, let's figure out what we can do and how many people we can help. And it's so much of that sort of pushed into every decision that we make. And we make so many more decisions as a team versus just an individual trying to go, well, let's see how far I can just go. And I'm just going to leave my partner behind in the dust. And it's never from that. And we don't really, despite the fact that both of us are, I think, naturally competitive. Britt, definitely because she did a lot of sports growing up, naturally competitive, but we don't compete with each other. It's not like I'm always trying to like one up her. She's trying to one up me. It doesn't make sense. It's definitely like we're walking forward in this together, holding, hand in hand. And as far as I can help you go, that's what I want to help. I would never like try and push her down to rise up myself. I feel like that's kind of a silly thing to end up doing. And you end up sort of destroying the relationship and making the other person always feel like they're not good enough. And I never want to do that.
Yeah. And it's so hard to even put like partners as competition, because you're operating from different realms. Like you said, like my strong suits and your strong suits are not the same. And so like, how could you even compete if you're not, operating in the same space? You know?
It's like us competing on height. I'm just going to win.
Well,
just the way it is.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking is like, well, if it's a competition, like we all know, we have learned, you will always beat me in the physical strength, or, like outweighing, like lifting more weights or running faster. Ugh, do you remember that time in the IKEA parking lot? I was convinced I could win.
You really were.
That was when, I'm like, I can do anything. Like, and then I realized, like, no, there's limits. There's limits.
It was a humbling day for you.
Yeah, I know. You got long legs, man.
I can run like the wind.
You are fast.
Hey, looking.
So, rewarding to work together and spend all the time.
All right, so our next question comes from Crystal, and she asks, or says, tell me about your magical trip to Bali. I'm scheduled to go, and I'm thinking of canceling. Crystal, don't do that.
Crystal, don't cancel. You got to go to Bali. Bali will rock your world. Bali is a very feminine planet, Bali is a very feminine island. I'm like, what is the word? It's a freaking like island vibe.
It definitely feels like you're on a different planet.
It is a different planet. I think that was like a Freudian slip for real, because it is like you're entering into a different like a totally different culture, totally different world. And I feel like I don't even know where to start, because I was so humbled by their culture, the way that they are so present, and the way that they, do the prayer hands and bow to every single person they cross paths with. I mean, that it's just like living a really mindful and connected kind of way within community, within the way that they treat Mother Earth and the way that they get their plants and harvest their food. I feel like there's so many things I could talk about Bali, but my first thought is like that feminine island will humble you. Like you will have to let go of something. Like you don't go to Bali and like not be challenged in a way to tap into a more connected, flowing state. Like whatever you're overthinking or whatever is like, I don't know, I just feel like you'll be challenged in Bali in the best kind of way. It's like an up level.
Reminds me of Colorado. No matter what, we almost die when we go to Colorado. It's like every single time.
I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I really think, though. Okay, let's talk real talk, though.
Okay, Aquarius.
The airplane flight to Bali absolutely sucks. I mean, unless you live in Australia and it's like you're puddle jumping to Bali. But the airplane flight, so we're coming out of Texas. We have to go Texas to California, which is about a 4-hour flight. We got to go from California to Hong Kong, which is a 15-hour flight. And then we have to go from Hong Kong to Bali. At least that's the path there's no direct flights. That's the path that we took. So you're in
And that was a 6-hour flight.
And I mean, you're over the ocean most of the time. It's a weird vibe. And I personally don't like airplanes. I'm not afraid of heights. I don't think the plane's going to crash. It's not that. I do not like being in a metal tube with a bunch of people like coughing and kids screaming and stuff like that. It's not me. And the food's normally not that great. And so I'm not into the plane ride. Once you actually get there, though, and also it's a 13-hour time difference, so the jet lag is real.
It's so real.
It is so real. So not just when you get there. The harder part for us was coming back. It took almost a full 2 weeks, and that's doing like every kind of thing that you can do for jet lag. I mean, we did everything.
We immediately came home and did the protocol. The water, the food, the sleep, the this, the that, and I remember going to work that week and just at 4:00, I was like, I'm about to pass out on you because it is time to go to bed.
Yeah, your brain and body are dealing with this, how fast you've moved in the airplane, it's everything. It's tough. So just know that beforehand. Just to me, those were the two big drawbacks from Bali, is that the plane ride was long and that the jet lag was real. The best parts about Bali, though, for one, everything is cheap. I'm talking about cheap.
Like $9 an hour massage cheap.
Okay, and they do Balinese massage, which is it's a long form massage. They do really long strokes, and instead of using lotion, they use oil, massage oil. Phenomenal. 100% go get a Balinese massage every single day if you can. And what we ended up doing was starting to go for 2 hours. We did 1 hour Balinese, and then right after we did 1 hour Thai massage. And so we were doing that every day, and it was costing us like $20. I mean, it's ridiculous how cheap stuff is. The other thing you can do there is the food is fantastic, and they care.
So good.
So you're typically getting organic produce. We're plant-based. So for us, so much of the stuff is grown. You can see it. We sat down at one restaurant, and the guy comes out there with the menu, and he's like, okay, here's our menu, but we don't have these couple things right here because we haven't picked them from right over here. And he pointed, and they hadn't gone out there and gotten like the sweet potatoes or whatever yet. And so like the food is not just like farm to table. He walks 15 feet to get it, and it's right. So it's so fresh and so good. So you should be spoiling yourself on the food. I cannot remember a meal that costs more than $5. And so I'm trying to eat like 2 or 3 meals at once, just because it's just so wonderful, and the fruit is so fresh. Oh, amazing. You will see, if you've never been to a third world country before, it's a little bit of a shock because of the conditions that a lot of people in as you get towards the inner cities. It's rough.
If you're not in a resort,
it's rough to see, and it's very real. We've been to several of those kind of countries, so it wasn't anything that was new, but it's just you realize how blessed you are. You're blessed in so many ways, but on top of that, all the people were extremely kind. Everyone that we met was very, very, very nice and very accommodating, and not even people that we were like paying. It was the madame, the sir, the way they treat you, like Britt said, the way they bow to you is something that's special. And you end up wanting to come back and doing that. But, when we come back to the States.
We got a lot of weird looks when we were bowing at people when we came back. They were like, what in the hell?
Yeah, all the places that we stayed at were really incredible. I mean, it's going there is very affordable. Third world countries. I mean, you can live like a king
Besides
from
the flight.
besides the flight. You can live like a king and queen for almost nothing.
Yeah, I did a 3 hour spa treatment at one of the resorts we stayed at, and I want to say it was like $200. Like it was insanely affordable compared to what you pay over here for the type of luxury treatment that you're getting. The resorts are definitely something to experience. I would say we kind of, in my Libra fashion, split it up into two types of trips. So we did like a super fancy resort vibe, and then we changed it up and went into the jungle and did like a more spiritual internal vibe. There are more beautiful Airbnbs in Bali alone than I have ever found in the United States in one small location. I had to make two wish list on my Airbnb account for Bali specifically, and it's a tiny island. You can explore so much of it. And so I was just shocked to see how beautiful the homes were for super inexpensive. I mean, you can get things for less than $20 a day in a beautiful modern space in Bali. The other thing I would recommend is actually reach out to me, because we had a private driver, and that's something I would highly recommend around the island.
You need it.
Do not rent a car. I would get a private driver, and we had the most incredible experience having a private driver. And again, it was like $20 a day. It wasn't super expensive, but it was very impactful to his life and his family, which we got to learn about throughout the few weeks that we were in Bali. I would recommend staying as long as you can. I know your flight's already booked, so you probably, I don't know if you can change it, but the longer you can stay, the better, just so you can acclimate and really experience the culture. It really is incredible. We did tons of ceremonies, including water rituals and fire rituals and rice burning, all the things. Like we went to lots of temples. I mean, there's over 20,000 temples on the island, so I highly recommend going to as many temples as possible. But when you have a personal driver or guide, they usually can get you like a better experience into the temples, because they're local and so they know so much more.
Yeah, and they're going to be the ones who are able to talk with the locals in the local language. And I mean, that can be a bit of a challenge. There are some people there are going to be speaking English. The people at the hotel definitely will. But once you get out into the regular city, not everyone does. And so having the driver is absolutely 100%. I would not go without. I mean, I would definitely would not go. And as to what Brett was saying, I would recommend you spend at least 2 weeks there if you can. I think, what were there? 16, 18 days?
Something.
And that, I think, was a little bit too short. The big problem is, though, you don't really want to come back. I mean, the life there is, it was
relaxed.
It was relaxed.
Loving,
and it was
peaceful.
So spiritual.
Every single business makes an offering outside of their door, if you will, like outside, with incense and money and flowers and candy. Like every single day, that's the way they start their business. Like honoring the gods and like just having an attitude of gratitude. And it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed.
And on top of that, they're really accepting of other religions. They're very tolerant of anything. I mean, it's not, they're not going to push you away. And a lot of their stuff is on meditation. You know, a lot of what they do is meditation based. So it doesn't take any religion or specific religion to do meditation. And so this is a lot of parts of the culture that no matter what you personally believe in, there's going to be something for you there. And it was one that, you know, you're wearing the, harem pants, you know, the elephant pants, and it's such a relaxed vibe there. It's something that you have to go and experience. It reminded me a little bit of Costa Rica. When I was there, I kind of felt like, oh, we're in Costa Rica, and
less spiritual Costa Rica.
Yeah, and the temples are really interesting, and it's fascinating to see how much of the culture dedicates itself to its spirituality. They're not just doing it to pray a little bit on Sunday, and then going home and watching the football game. It's not that. It's something that they're most of them are like our guy who kept wanting to stop at temples and pray. And if he couldn't stop at temples, he wanted to double tap the horn.
He honked every time he passed the temple. It was the cutest thing.
And eventually I'm like, hey,
why are you random? We would be like, why are you randomly honking? We asked so many questions. Why are you randomly honking? Oh, we passed by the temple. Like, oh, wow. We taught him some fun words too.
We definitely did. It was an incredible trip, and I would for sure go back again, even though the plane ride, but I would spend more time. If I went back again, I probably wouldn't go for anything less than a month.
Yeah.
And really just get into it. It's so different. The private tours are very worth it. We normally don't do that. I mean, that's not normally, we always go self-explore. And that's, for the most part, I don't like to do touristy stuff that often. But man, the places that you can get into, some of the beautiful nature. I mean, we got spoiled. We were spoiled while we were there. We were taken to private meditations that no one could get into. And it was beyond incredible. It was definitely one of those experiences where you feel, you've been with the guru half the time, and it's just.
Yeah, we did have like one of those eat, pray, love, like, oh, I can see that guru that came up to us and he was like, I can see you practice yoga and meditation. I'd like to treat you to a special ceremony. And that was like, what? I just said yes. And Chris is like, shit. Where are we going? What's happening? And I'm just like, let's go. The spirit is calling. And it really was a magical. I mean, I'd love to share all the details, but like we were there for so long, we could talk forever on Bali. She did specifically ask about the snakes in the longer version of the question. I never saw a snake.
Not once.
Not once. I saw way more monkeys than I saw snakes. And the monkeys will fuck you up, man. Like,
yeah, don't mess with the monkeys.
Yeah, don't mess with the monkeys, man.
Yeah, so I don't remember seeing any snakes, but I mean, it's just a snake. I mean, there's not.
Snakes also represent Kundalini energy, so I really feel like going to Bali is going to awaken some of that energy inside of you, especially like calling home the feminine. We went to so many like mother temples and.
It's a very feminine feel there. Period. Most of the guys are really, they're small people. They're not like muscular.
Big and muscular.
Seeing a bunch of guys on steroids or anything.
And none of them are even taller than me.
And even they don't have deep voices. Just the vocal tones really light, and the handshakes or anything like that is very light touch. And so it was an experience. I mean, if you can go to Bali, 100%. Do it. I mean, it's a perfect place to be.
Yeah. Loved Bali. Highly recommended. Don't cancel. Honestly, in my opinion, I would live there. I would live there right now if we didn't have animals that, were committed to seeing them through,
Yeah.
So, one day I could easily see us living there. Easily. It was fabulous. All right. Next question. Anne asked, how to navigate yourself when you set boundaries. Example, not going to family holidays and doing something versus doing something small at home with the kids. When the people pleaser in me comes out in my head, how do I soothe her and remind her it's okay to not show up for others in the same way I used to? This year has pushed me inward a lot, and I am limiting my energy circle right now.
Oh boy.
Scorpio season.
So
push some boundaries.
So I'm one of those people that does not feel bad about keeping my boundaries. Anytime that I make a decision in my mind, the decision's set. And if that makes someone upset, that is not my fault. That is 100% on them. And so having that attitude is not necessarily coddling the people pleaser in you. It's throwing it away. Because whenever I show up for people, I show up 110%. I'm there, I'm focused, I don't have my phone in my hand, I'm not thinking about other things at the time, I'm not rehearsing what I'm going to say, I'm just listening to them and I'm just being with them. And this is not even people that pay me money. Like, this is the people that I've decided, hey, I'm coming out to your birthday party, or hey, you're coming over and hanging out with me for a bit, or whatever it is. I am there. And so when I give that time, I totally show up. Nothing else really exists. And when I decide I need more time for me, or Britt and I are doing something different, or we are not going out to the family thing here, which is actually, we had that happen recently. Britt's mom went on a trip for her birthday and for the Thanksgiving holiday. And instead of us going out there, as some of the other family members did, we did not do that. And that I don't feel bad about that. And I don't think Britt feels bad about that. It's just we just decided not to. And so when you make a decision in your mind, just let it be. That's the way that it is.
You know what that sounds like? The 7 or above rule.
7 or above. I'm telling you, it comes back to that so often. We have things that we want to complete right now. We have things that we're working on. We have other obligations. And so you default back to that. And remember that only you live your life. This life is not set up so that you can make everybody happy, because it will never work. And even if you show up at the other people's place, and even if you do exactly everything they ask you to do, and even if you do more than that, and you prep early, and you bring more, and you do everything, and you take them to the best time, they'll still complain about it.
I was going to say, they're still not going to love you more.
It doesn't give you more. What happens with boundaries is that people will continue to push them. They will continue to lean on your boundaries. And I think they do that by default. I don't think it's a thing that people are trying to necessarily be mean or manipulative and do. I think we just do that as people.
Well, I was going to say, as a child, you always want to know, like, what pushing your boundaries, what can I get away with? How far can I take this? And I think that never stops.
Yeah. And so
if you're a pushover, then people are going to
push
keep
you over.
Yeah, people will keep pushing.
And so you have to just decide, how do you stand? And is that okay with you? And do that. And don't ever look back. Don't ever think back, because it won't help you and it won't help them and it won't make the situation that you're in. I always like to give just 100% of my focus on whatever is just right there in front of me. And if I can do that, I don't even think about other people's opinions because I don't have time to do it. I'm too focused on what I'm actually doing. So a lot of times it comes off as that I'm really hardcore, but it is just how I've shifted my focus. It's not about me trying to be a jerk. And I'm not like, no, I never do that. You suck. It's not that kind of attitude at all. It's the, hey, I'm working on this thing right now. So I'm not going to be, I hope you have a wonderful time doing that, but I'm not going to be able to show up and participate with you. Enjoy yourself. I can't wait to hear more about it. And that's that.
Yeah, I feel like when I think of like people pleaser, I think lacking confidence in the choice that you make. And to me, that's 7 or above, knowing what you want. If you're limiting your energy circle and that means you want to stay at home and do something small with your family, you clearly have the knowing and the decision made that I would rather spend my time doing this. And so you have to have the confidence in the choice that you make so that you don't fall to the people pleaser mode. So when you're confident in that choice, I think it's just getting clarity on what do you really want and being comfortable or confident in expressing that. And just by expressing that is setting the boundary. No, I don't want to do that. Thank you very much. Thanks for the offer.
Done and done.
Done and done.
Okay, so the next question comes from Deanda, and she says, I'm continuously searching for my purpose and calling, but every time when I think I got it, I get bored and do something else. This way I'm sort of experimenting, but I sometimes also feel like a waste of time or a never-ending journey. Is this normal? And is it possible to have more than one calling? Like I feel called to do one thing, but also something completely else. I want to reach the end of this never-ending journey, but I feel lost at the same time. We're both laughing. Aimlessly wandering different paths. How do I walk a more clearer path?
I'm laughing because if she wants to end the never-ending journey, it's called death, honey. Like, because this journey is an unfoldment of joy and experiments. And so I feel like if she wants to end it, and like, I'm just laughing because
it's funny.
I mean, you know what I'm laughing about.
I do.
Like, ending it is death, honey. Otherwise, it's acceptance that the joy is found in the journey, and that really, here's my honest truth. I'm a freaking psychic medium, hairdresser, life coaching, oracle card slanging wizard over here. You know what I mean? Like, I have so many different passions. So for me, when I always coach my clients, I always tell them that their passion is their purpose. And so when you say like, can I have more than one purpose? 100%. And it's, what are you willing to put your time and energy into? And if you get bored with something, you have to ask yourself, am I actually bored? And I've taken time to move forward in this project and go, is it worth the time and energy? Am I having fun? Or am I self-sabotaging with these fears that are coming up that's stopping me from moving forward in this project? So you kind of have to evaluate. If you're getting to a point where you feel bored, you have to ask, am I self-sabotaging, or am I genuinely like taking the time to experiment? Not for me, really looking to move on to the next thing. And you've gathered data to help you make a more refined choice of what that next step is.
I think the other thing that people are doing a lot of times is they're screwing up the use of the word purpose. And I think a lot of times what we're doing is we're thinking about, well, what's my life purpose? What am I here to do? And I'm going to break it down for you in the simplest terms. The purpose of life is life. There's no other purpose. It's impossible to have another purpose. The purpose of life is just you being here. Everything else is meaning your mind applies to it. And so that's something that you can only create yourself. Now, what am I interested in right now? And what am I passionate about? Those are different topics completely. And so if you're super excited about something, if it brightens your day, we're all looking to kind of just relax a lot of times. We're all looking to kind of just like, if I could just take the load off, this would be awesome. But a lot of times we all hear these different kind of callings. I mean, this is why Britt and I stay up late some nights trying to help people out, or trying to get a project done. Or it's not because necessarily that's exactly what I want to be doing. Help me just go in the bed all night. That'd be the ideal. But the reality is that sometimes you're called to do something. And in that way, you'll have different callings in your life because you'll be interested in different things. You'll have met new people and they'll have new problems. And you'll say, hey, well, why don't I help you solve these? Or you'll swap businesses, or you'll move. And
it was like when we were called to create the couples retreat. That wasn't on our radar list at
no,
all.
I don't want to do a couples retreat. And then someone asked us to do it. And then someone else asked us to do it. And then I got pulled aside and asked by 5 people at once to do it. And so you get the calling. And so you hear people saying, I know that you have a deeper kind of knowledge in you. I need that. Can you make it accessible to me? They may not say it in those exact same words. It may not be as lucky as the people literally just asking us, but that's how it works. And that's why a lot of times you have to be having a lot of more awareness. You have to be listening more. The self-sabotage thing that Britt brought up, was very real. A lot of times people will bail as soon as it gets a little bit hard. And that's how you see successful people. They push through. They continue to push through those moments. Because if it's still lighting you up, and you still feel like, man, this is really what I feel like doing right now. I can tell that this is what I've been practicing for. This is what a lot of parts of my life that's what they've led me up to. Like, then you got to go with the calling. And you got to stay on that until it no longer serves you, or it no longer serves the people who you care about. And so in that way, the purpose will be a moving target. But it's not something that you have to be really concerned about, because life will always kind of nudge you back in that same direction again. That's what continuously happens. Life just nudging you and closing this door and opening that door and closing another one. And it's just kind of this ebb and flow. And to the whole point, there's no break out of the cycle. We cannot get out. If you figure out how to escape, please make a podcast or a program and tell us how you do that.
Let me know.
Because I think there's so much in assisting the other people that are here. There's so much reward in that. And there's so much when you figure something out, to be able to share it with someone. I mean, that's how we started the whole podcast off. I love sharing what I've learned with other people. I love it. I love it because I know how it helps them. It's not just rewarding for me, like, hey, look, I know all the stuff. Who cares? It's, man, when you see that person's face light up, when you realize that, man, they were in a down spot and now they've figured it out, or they've been super frustrated and annoyed and they're angry at themselves and they feel like a failure, and suddenly something that you tell them lights up their day, and they go and use that, and suddenly their life changes, and they wake up in the morning feeling renewed and fresh, and they're just full of life again. It's worth it. It's worth every second. I mean, just to see they hear the expression in their vocal tone, and to see that their eyes just light up in that specific way, it's just, it's so good. Like, that's one of the reasons why we're here. It's to see that and bring more of that about in everyone else.
I know. Deanda says she feels lost in that question. And I think, well, then come back to this moment and you'll find yourself. And in this moment, you can ask, what feels good? What do I want right now? Because you might be following a path that you once laid out that doesn't align with where you want to go now.
And I'll tell you too, a lot of times what we end up doing is we end up overthinking it all. And what you have to do when you're on any kind of mission is to always just simplify it. Simplification is the answer. And so sometimes what we've done, and why we are bored again, or we're not into something as much as we were before, is because we've complicated it too much. Life, for the most part, is fairly simple. And so if you can continuously remind yourself that, am I overthinking this? Like, is this, what? And get back to the simple terms, you can find the joy again and continue on the mission. There will always be times when you burn out, and a lot that has to do with time management. That has to do with energy management. So that's a different skill that you have to learn. So a lot of times it's not, I need to get off this purpose thing, or not, do I need to ditch this passion? It's, how am I managing my energy, and how am I taking care of myself, and am I giving more than I actually can? And it's considering those questions so that you can continue to feel fulfilled while you serve out what mission you're on.
Oh my gosh, I can hear everyone saying, how do I do that? Well, you join the Elevated Life Club and we'll show you all the secrets.
True that.
Okay, so the last question comes from Christina, and she says, I am really on board for making big changes in my life. Way to go, Christina. Whoop, whoop. AKA to stop obsessing over what food I eat and what I want without the stress or overthinking I do now. My issue is that I am currently in school becoming a dietitian, so I am constantly surrounded by health topics, food, disease, etc. I love the idea of being an anti-dieter and all about the mental health importance, But I have a really hard time following this anti-dieting lifestyle and feeling I'm not putting myself at risk for future diabetes. So I guess my question is, how do I live a life where I eat what I desire, which naturally ends up being more starchy dishes, higher fat, sweets? You get the gist. And not put myself at risk for diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Where's the balance, and how do I know when I'm gone too far?
Wow. So this has definitely been even a topic in our household lately. For one, I am going to be having my 40th birthday next year. And it got me to thinking about how do I want to shift how I eat or what I'm doing physically and how do I take care of myself in a better way and how do I manage my own personal energy and lifestyle better, just so I can have more longevity. It's just something that the age thing has started to come up and what does that affect and what do I need to be doing differently, if anything at all. And so, I really love this topic, and I probably am going to have an unpopular opinion on this, but I don't like intuitive eating. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to eat intuitively. I'll just stop when I feel like it, and I'll just keep going and for most people it doesn't work. Sadly, it doesn't. If you look at the data, if you look at the amount of people that are obese at this point, and I'm not talking about obese from a beauty standard or something like that. I'm talking about from a health perspective. We all know that, incredible weight puts a toll on your body. It puts a toll on your organs, puts a toll on your joints, just the way that it goes. And so having that consideration in the back of your mind and looking at what food you're eating is vitally important. I mean, not only to your physical health, but to your emotional well-being, to your spiritual well-being. Like, all these things weigh on you. And you want to be eating healthier foods. You want to be thinking about, like, how much do I really need to be eating? Is this too much? If you're from a place like we are, when you go out to a restaurant, the portions are enormous and they're covered in butter and all sorts of everything else. And yeah, it tastes... And fried. And it tastes... Boy, I feel like Texas is probably the fried capital of the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you go to State Fair here, literally every single thing is fried. Fried everything.
Fried butter.
Fried margaritas. I don't even know how that's a thing, but everything is fried. And you have to decide, what do you want to do? What's more important to you? Do you want to risk your health because something tastes better? What's weird also is that when you have a lot of sugar and when you have a lot of these other processed chemicals, you don't end up enjoying the flavor of regular foods anymore. When you have a ton of sodium, you don't enjoy the regular foods as much anymore. And they don't taste right. And it's because your taste buds are so blown out by these little chemicals and your brain's so lit up. I mean, go check out the documentary Fed Up. It's about sugar and how people are putting sugar in everything. Like, you won't naturally find that. You can't find the amount of sugar and the fat really that we put into things in nature. And so I always try to think, how did we evolve eating? Not what can I get at McDonald's that's convenient and cheap. It's how did we evolve? How did our bodies grow? What are people doing that are sustaining great health? Well, this is healthy food, the stuff that grows from the ground. It's really not that complicated. And what I find is that most people already know what to eat. They just don't. Because convenience makes a huge difference in people's lives. What we've been doing a lot is meal prepping. And I will tell you, it's probably one of the biggest things that we'll put forward in the next year is trying to decide what food do we want to eat during the week and eating that. Not leaving it up to chance. Not leaving up to what can I find on the way because I'm super starving now and I'm just going to pull in this convenience store and grab a bunch of crap. It's not that. It's spending a little bit of time thinking ahead and deciding, like, what do I want for my body? Like, for me, whenever I eat really bad food, I feel bad. And my whole body feels bad. I'm sluggish. I'm slow. I can't think as well. I have these low energy levels. And I don't produce the same kind of life out of me that I'm used to.
And I think you're answering her specific question on how do I know if I've gone too far? Well, you don't feel good. That's when you know you've gone too far.
Definitely. You definitely know that. And so I don't know that there's a balance point. I will say that for a lot of people, you can get away with doing something once a week or once a month for one meal and enjoying those kind of foods. But I have come to the decision where I don't enjoy them as much because they don't give me the same kind of reward that they used to. I think the problem a lot of times exists in the fact that when we were children, and I think probably especially your family, everything evolved around food. Everything. If you got together, you were eating. If we were celebrating somebody, we were eating. If it was a birthday party, we're eating. Everything is eating. If the kid's sad or if the kid had a great day, what do? Get him ice cream. So we're used to getting a certain kind of reward when we want things to be better. And so when we get later in life, what we end up doing is having the same kinds of habits. And so we have a bad day, guess what we're going to go do? We're going to grab something that's not necessarily good for us, and we're going to use that to emotionally soothe ourselves. Well, what happens if we're having a really good day? We just knocked it out of the park. Let's go reward ourselves by drinking a ton. It's these kinds of habits that we develop in our younger years that we continuously carry over and don't think, what are the repercussions? What happens over the long haul? I mean, like you mentioned specifically diabetes. I mean, that can be such a serious thing. I mean, that can be the loss of limbs, if it gets too complicated. And so you have to start picturing and researching and thinking in your mind about what you want your health to be like, and then building all of your lifestyle habits around that. And a lot of times that will make you make decisions that you don't necessarily love. That is skipping out on desserts. That is doing certain things so that you can fuel your body with the right foods.
It's kind of like me doing that 8-week butt camp that I just wrapped up. I feel like that was me knowing that I went too far. I gained 25 pounds and was like, hey girl, I haven't been going to the gym for the last year. Probably should find a new balance. So I think the answer to your question is super, super simple, but you're overcomplicating it. Do you feel good? Great. Do you not feel good? Let's start either looking at what kind of energy we're consuming, whether it be food or the people we surround ourselves with, or how are we expending our energy? Are we actually moving it and using it in some kind of activity?
And this is not something to feel bad about. If you have an off day and you do something that
eat the cupcake.
Yeah.
Eat it.
This is not about limiting yourself and constricting yourself to this little bitty box and you can't make these kind of, you can't have fun anymore. That's not what this is about. But it is definitely about putting at the forefront of your mind is what is healthy for me. How do I feel my best? And how do I lead with that versus just kind of any time that I want to, doing something that doesn't work for that and sabotaging all the progress that I've already made.
Yeah, it's about making a plan and then being willing to eat the cupcake along the plan if you need to.
That happened during your butt camp.
Totally happened.
Totally fine, too.
I think I ate tacos probably 3 nights out of that whole thing that was like an unplanned, just need some tacos in my heart right now.
And you know what's important about that? And I got to watch you go through it, which was, enjoyable for me because I like to watch stuff like that.
Why? Because I was shaping my butt to look so nice?
but it's that you didn't stop. The nights where you're like, man, I am super low energy. I can't do this extra hour of cardio tonight. Then you just didn't. And then the nights where you're like, man, I'm so hungry, I'm going bananas. You decided, you weren't actually entering into a competition where you had to go up on stage and it was tied to your income and you had to do some kind of physical performance. It was something that you just wanted to do. And you decided, a couple of times I was going to do a little extra. Fine. It's all about just not quitting. So many people, they make one little bitty mistake and then all of a sudden their whole plan is destroyed. And what I loved about what you did is you got right back on the horse. You're like, okay, I did that. Wake up in the morning, I'm back on it again. And you feel good. And it allowed you to keep going longer and make better results over time versus just stopping on week 3 and being like, well, I messed up once. So we're just never going to go again.
It's true. Or if you go on the opposite side of that, where you eat a cupcake and you're like, I'm never going to do it again and you prolong that, well, I screwed up yesterday. It's okay if I screw up today. And you just carry that on for a long time.
Yeah. So I just right back on it.
Yeah, and that's having a plan.
Yeah.
What's the plan that works for you? And we can't give you that plan because there's no perfect plan for one person. It's so individualized. There's a standard plan, sure, for body type, body weight, all the things, what your goals are. But in general, you've got to be the one to kind of explore your own body and your relationship to nutrition and how that feels. And obviously, if you're going to school to be a dietitian, you are very in tune and aware with how the system works and what's going on for you.
Yeah, I feel like over my whole life here, one of the things that has served me the most is figuring out what it is that my body needs and sticking to that 95% of the time. It has helped me so much. I rarely ever get sick. I feel good 99% of the time. It's knowing what you need and being super aware of that and knowing what you want, but your body doesn't need, and only giving into that occasionally.
Eat the cupcake, but only once a month.
Yeah, do the work. Do the work. It's worth it.
No, I think that was such a great question, and I'm sure so many people feel or think that to a certain degree, because one thing's for sure, we all have in common is that we have to eat to survive. So I love that question, and I've loved all these questions, and it's been so fun being able to answer and share our wisdom and insight into these different topics. And we love hearing from you. So if you have a question you want to hear on the podcast, just shoot us a DM. Let us know, what was your takeaway? What aha moment did you have? Screenshot this and share it on your social. Be sure to tag us so that we can support you and shine the light your way. And we just appreciate the love, the connection, and the community. It's so incredible. I don't know, just what has this podcast has created for the Elevated Life community. And I'm just so grateful that you guys tune in and you love hearing this wisdom and you share it with your friends. Thank you guys for joining us in the club. It's just so fun to support you and cheer you on your mission to make a difference in the world.
And with that, we will see you next week.
Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.